cortisol level goes up and your cortisol says, hey, here's some protein, break it down into glucose. Usually it's muscle tissue, which is not great. So that's why when you're chronically stressed, you might feel like, oh my God, I feel like my number's high and I'm frustrated. It's breaking down protein into glucose through gluconeogenesis. And it's also instigating insulin resistance, which is not good because it's also breaking down some of the fat, which may just sit in your bloodstream. Welcome to the Your Diabetes Insider podcast, where we take all of the mysteries of blood sugar control, focusing on nutrition, exercise, and any of the other 40 plus factors that may impact your blood sugar. If you don't know me, my name is Ben Zeal. I'm a registered dietitian, certified diabetes educator, strength and conditioning coach, and I've lived myself with type 1 diabetes for over 20 years. And I am here to share everything that I have learned in both my personal and professional experience so you can live that incredible diabetes life. So get ready and let's dive right into today's episode. Welcome to this episode of the Your Diabetes Insider podcast, where we're bringing you diabetes knowledge every single time and stuff that you probably aren't talking about with your care team, because we need you to have amazing blood sugars so you can live an amazing life unrestricted by your diabetes. And today I want to cover a topic that does not get a lot of love, but it's definitely something real. And it's definitely something real, especially if you are a very passionate football fan now that football has kicked off. And with this, that topic would be adrenaline. You might be thinking, Ben, why are you talking about this? Like, you're watching football, you're not playing in the game. Hear me out. Here's the situation. So here's a great example. This would be last year. Amelia and I went to a Viking game, which, for better or for worse, I love the Vikings. It's more of a love-hate kind of deal. But we went to a game, and the game was really close. It was against the Lions, and the Vikings lost on a walk-off field goal, which was kind of depressing. But because of that, the game was very close for the majority of the game. So I get to the game. My blood sugar is like 130, 140. We had eaten some brunch before. I had dosed appropriately. We walked to the stadium. Everything was pretty smooth. Everything was where you want it to be. And it was a rivalry game, and both teams were playing really well at the time, and it was pretty intensive. And so because of that, what ends up happening is I start looking at my number at halftime. I'm already up to 240, and I'm wondering, whoa, this is crazy. Did I mess something up at brunch? Is everything good? And as the game kept going on, of course, is getting into the third quarter and the fourth quarter, it gets more intense. And when you get really into something like that, your blood sugar may start to rise more. And so suddenly, by the time the game's over, I'm teetering right around the 300 mark. And then, lo and behold, the Vikings end up losing. You come down from the emotional high. We're walking back to where we were staying. And suddenly my blood sugar goes from teetering on that 300 mark all the way back down into the hundreds again. And so you might be thinking, well, cool, Ben, you might have messed up your dosing. Something else might have been a problem. Here's what went down. And this may happen to you during sporting events. This may happen to you during crazy intense movies. It may happen to you if you're performing. Maybe you're a musician, maybe you're in a play, you're performing, you're giving a speech, something going on that can seem a lot like fight or flight. And so to make sure we understand fight or flight, right? You've probably heard of this from back in the day. Our cavemen ancestors would have these creatures like saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths that may or may not have attacked them, right? We don't know, we weren't there, but that's the assumption. And so the body developed this defense mechanism, this fight or flight, where basically it says, hey, I either need to go fight and be ready to protect myself for my survival, or I need to get the hell out of Dodge and just escape and run. And so what happens is your liver says, hi, I'm going to show up here. I'm going to dump a bunch of glucose so that way you have energy to fight and you have energy to run away if that is the better situation here. And for better or for worse, we have not evolved out of that sequence. So situations get stressful, whether it's something that's actually stressful, you're walking down a dark alleyway at 2 a.m, which I don't suggest, but that kind of situation, you see a shady figure and you're, holy cow, your heart jumps into your chest. Or whether you're watching a football game that you're not even playing in and you're getting way too intense about it because you have an emotional connection to this team that you are watching. So it can happen in either situation. What happens a lot of times too is because it is stress, your body sees stress as stress, right? There's good stress called eustress, and then there's distress, not great stress, right? It's the stress that you think of when you think of stress. And with these situations with stress, that can also increase your cortisol level. So what happens with cortisol, right? Cortisol level goes up and your cortisol says, hey, here's some protein, break it down into glucose. Usually it's muscle tissue, which is not great. So that's why when you're chronically stressed, you might feel like, oh my God, I feel like my number's high and I'm frustrated. It's breaking down protein into glucose through gluconeogenesis. And it's also instigating insulin resistance, which is not good because it's also breaking down some of the fat, which may just sit in your bloodstream. Because, of course, protein is easier to access for energy, but fat is obviously still an energy store and energy source that can be used as well. So you've got a couple things working against you with elevated levels of cortisol, plus, of course, the liver saying, here's glucose because you're stressed out and you need this right this very second. So that's a lot of things that can be going on all at the same time. Our bodies are very complex systems, right? You know this as a person living with diabetes or caring for someone who has diabetes or being friends with someone who has diabetes, right? The body is a very complex system. There's a lot of pieces all working together, but these are things that just get skipped all the time. You know, prime example, have a patient in high school playing baseball, has a really big game, championship game of a tournament. Blood sugar shoots up because he's so excited, but nervous, but anxious all at the same time. Blood sugar goes from, normal range up to 270, 280, 290, and then comes all the way back down. And so the big takeaways I have for you here, and I wanted to make this episode, I wanted to make it so it's swift and sweet and to the point. But the thing you have to remember is twofold, right? Number one, this can happen. And sometimes to an extent, is not all the time, but to an extent, there's only so much you can do about it. Second, when you come down, when your nervous system tells your brain to chill out, your brain settles down and everything's back to normal and you feel safe again. I'm using safe lightly here, but the event is over. The game ends, right? You gave your talk. You did your performance, whatever it might be. You come all the way back down and your subconscious chills out, your brain chills out, your amygdala, which is the fight or flight thing, part of your brain, that chills out. Your blood sugar can come down very quickly. So here's the thing. A lot of people will say, oh, I'm about to go, I'm starting pitcher in this game, or I'm playing in the championship basketball game, or whatever it might be, right? I'm on this giant debate and we're at the, world stage, whatever it is, your blood sugar may start to rise. You might have a test, right? It might be you're in school. Hey, I'm taking this test. I'm really nervous. I know I studied, but I don't know if I know it well enough. Your blood sugar goes up. If you hit it too hard with a correction, your blood sugar can then tumble straight down when it's done. Because what happens, right? You're fighting against all this insulin resistance, but this insulin resistance is temporary because it's specifically related to this stress. And so if you just say, you know what, my numbers, like at the football game I was at, right? If I said, oh man, I'm 240, let me pound it with insulin, let me pound it with more insulin, let me pound it with more insulin. And then suddenly I chill out. Well, what ends up happening, right? All this insulin's in my system. My brain chills out, the resistance goes away, cortisol starts to drop a little bit. My blood sugar it's like the Wile E. Coyote, runs off the cliff, looks down and just tanks, right? So you have to be careful. Yes, there may be a time and a place to say, I need a little bit of a correction, because you probably will. If you're on insulin, you probably will. If you're not on insulin and you see this type of spike, you may need to say, hey, how am I going to use up a little bit of glucose, whether it's a short walk, whether it's a little bit of, walk would probably be your best bet. But I'd say a little bit of activity would probably be the easiest. But regardless, right? What are you going to do? Because if you're taking insulin, you're going to fall off a cliff when your body and your brain chill out. So you have to be conservative with it. Of course, have a plan with your care team to ensure that you know what you're doing. So you're not setting yourself up for failure. But at the same time, you have to make sure you are paying attention to this and going into something. If you're like, hey, I'm about to run, a marathon. I've never done this before and I'm really hyped up and antsy. Know that you may run a tad bit higher. Also know that you need to be conservative with the corrections, because too much you will drop and it will not be a good situation for you. And again, this can go to any context. It can be as simple as a football game, right? This can be as big as you're doing something in front of a ton of people. It can be as big as, oh my God, I'm meeting my in-laws for the first time, right? Something like that can lead to this type of response. And it's a universal thing across all people. But when you live with diabetes, you notice it even more because of the blood sugar impact. So you want to make sure you're not overdoing it on the correction side, but you also do want to make sure you mitigate the rise as much as possible. If we can have you hang out at 210 and come right back down, that's a lot better than hanging out at 310 or 410, right? So that's the big thing I want to leave here. I want to know if you have the same situation with football, because maybe I'm just this crazy super fan, or maybe I just really get into the Viking games and that's just my thing and that's it. But either way, I want to make sure that you are set up for success, not just this football season, but with life in general. So let me know. Do you have this experience when you are in a stressful situation? Let me know what your blood sugars end up doing with adrenaline. Let me know on social media at Man of Zeal on Instagram and on TikTok. And if you're someone who says, hey, I need to figure out situations like this, my care team is just not cutting it right now. I'm frustrated, but I want great blood sugars and I want them before the end of the year so I can feel my best during the holiday season and going into 2026. My team and I are here to help support. We all are dietitians. We all have exercise backgrounds. We all have a very intimate connection with diabetes, and we have your back. So holler at me. Let me know how we can support you. If you're loving the pod, drop us an amazing review on Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening. And with that, I will catch you in the next episode.
Hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey.